Happy holidays, everybody, from me, Kuroda, as usual, Rob here. How's it going, everybody? So for this video, I decided to kind of conclude my list videos for the season, that I would actually do something very personal. Now, I usually do, like I've said before, about 90% gaming content on this channel. I'll occasionally dip into other stuff. Especially lately, I've been doing way more gaming content, scripted videos, top lists, those histories and stuff that I always do. But I figured because it's the holidays, I already did that sort of updated version of my top 10 favorite Switch games. And then I did the video of these are a few of my favorite games, which of course was 10 of my favorite video games ever. And then now I decided it's the holidays, let's be a little more personal. I'm going to talk a little bit more about myself today. So there's a lot of people who follow my channel that do know me personally. So for you guys, this stuff isn't going to be very surprising at all. But I just thought maybe since there's been lots of new people visiting the channel and watching the videos recently, that maybe you'd want to see the guy behind the camera, I guess. So sort of just like what my interests are, sort of who I am, and I guess what makes me tick. So these are gonna be a list. It's not a top 10. It's just a bunch of stuff that I love that is not gaming related. And I'm also not gonna put obvious things like my friends and family. That would always be number one over everything. I mean, that's like, I could maybe talk a little bit about that, but yeah, that's not technically on the list. That's one of those things that goes without saying. So anyway, without further ado, here are a few of my favorite things. I think we'll start out with some kind of categories. So my first one I'm going to talk about is food. I love food. I'm human. We all love food. Who doesn't love food? I don't know anybody who doesn't like to eat food. And I feel like I'm incredibly adventurous with food, more so maybe than the average person. I have eaten all kinds of different foods, whether it's different ethnic foods or different, sort of classic Americanized foods. I don't know. I'm not biased. I love everything from a cheeseburger to a curry to a slice of pizza to something like Ethiopian food. Like you name it. I love food, and just some of my favorites are. I guess I'll go first with the sort of classic sort of Americanized crap that I still love dearly. So like obviously I love pizza. I'm from New Jersey, fairly close to New York City. We have amazing pizza. New Jersey and New York are just like, especially more so the New York City sort of area. The closer you get to New York, the better pizza it is. And I grew up eating a lot of pizza, and I still eat a lot of pizza. And I love all kinds of pizza, like all kinds of flavors of pizza. Usually I have to have some kind of meat on it, and I love pineapple on pizza. I know that's a taboo for some people, but I don't care. I love pineapple pizza or Hawaiian pizza. But I also love pepperoni, mushroom, all those, like, I'll eat any pizza. I love it. It makes me want to have some right now. But yeah, pizza is definitely one of my very favorite foods. I love tacos. Oh, I really love tacos. This goes more into the ethnic side, I guess you'd say. Like with Mexican food. I'm like with any kind of Mexican food or Hispanic food in general, any kind of anything like that. I am game. I love any kind of wrap or like a dish like something like an empanada or anything with like rice and beans, that kind of thing. I'm all about it. And I love spicy food. I really really love spicy food. So there's a lot of especially Mexican food and I'd say Indian food where they get really really spicy. And while I don't eat spicy food all the time, I really really love some nice like hot food. It's just my dad was like really into spicy food, and I think that's just something like he'd always have some kind of like pickled peppers, some jalapenos or something, or habaneros or whatever. Like, you gotta try these out, and then I'd try them, and there's always this weird sort of like measure of toughness that people have. It's like, how much heat can you handle? So yeah, the spicier the better. But yeah, I love pizza. I love like tacos and Mexican food, stuff like that. I love a good hamburger, like for sure. I say hamburger because I don't do cheeseburgers as much anymore, but I mean, I won't say no to a cheeseburger, but my preferred method of eating a nice tasty burger is pile it with lots of veggies, and that makes me happy. Like veggies, pickles, jalapeno peppers, something like that. A little ketchup on there, a little bit of dab of mayo. Delicious. So I love that kind of stuff. I love classic sort of American food, but I also love ethnic food. I love going and getting sushi or hibachi at a Japanese restaurant. I love curries, all kinds of curries, whether it's from India or Thailand or whatever. Thai food is one of my very favorites. I love something like a massaman curry or a Penang curry or like any of those. Always with chicken. I almost never get anything else. Or something like a tom yum soup is like really really fabulous. And then probably my favorite over the last, I'd say, maybe 7 or 8 years has become Indian food. Indian food is just delicious. I really really love every dish I've tried, whether it's like the aloo gobis or the chicken vindaloos and stuff. Again, I always go chicken. That's my kind of preferred meat. I will do beef and stuff occasionally. I don't eat a lot of pork, bacon aside, because I do like bacon a lot. That's another thing I love is making. This is a big staple for me in our house. Is on the weekends when I'm off, I'll always make a big breakfast. If not both days, then maybe the Saturday morning I'll make like pancakes or French toast and then like eggs and bacon, and I have a really good potato recipe. So food is like a huge focus of mine. I love food. I can eat a lot. Like I'm a good eater, and I also really enjoy cooking. Especially over the last few years, I've come to realize how much I enjoy cooking. It's satisfying cooking for your family, and it's satisfying if you have friends over and you make a good meal and they say, "Hey, that was really good." So, yeah, just food in general. I'm very adventurous with food. I will try anything, and there's very little I dislike. So, it's like always a huge focus for me. So that's the first thing I'll talk about. We'll go into a different category here where it's more like, I'll say like travel, that kind of thing, or like outdoorsy stuff. So I'm not a big outdoorsy guy. I love being outdoors. I'm not like a sports guy. I don't really follow sports. I never watch sports. I've always enjoyed playing sports more than watching it. Just never been my thing. I used to really like playing basketball with my siblings and my friends. We used to always play basketball a ton when I lived back home in New Jersey. I don't do that much anymore, but I suck at it, but I always liked playing basketball. I always liked playing stuff like volleyball or whatever, but I'm not a sports guy by and large. The exception to that is I really like golf. So I will occasionally go golfing with a friend or like my father-in-law or something like that. That is something. Golf is actually something I got into years ago because of Mario Golf. Actually, it was when I was a kid. I played Mario Golf. I loved it, and I was like, I gotta try this out. It looks fun. So I actually got really good well, I got decent at golf. I can do okay. Severe handicap for sure, but I can make my way around the fairway okay. I suck at putting, but I enjoy it. I'll play a game of golf, little 9-hole thing, or go mini golfing with the kids or something. So like, yeah, that's kind of maybe an unexpected thing that people might think like, wow, Kuroda likes to golf, but I do. I could see myself someday retiring and playing golf like once or twice a week because it's just fun. Especially you get a beautiful day, you get out on the course, hang out with somebody. It's pretty casual. I don't get too stressed out about it, and it's just fun. So yeah, I enjoy it. Would never watch golf. That sounds like the most boring thing ever, to be honest. So again, I've always had a hands-off, well, actually, more of a hands-on approach to sports rather than, I guess the hands-off as in, like, sitting there religiously and watching a team, like a football team or a baseball team or anything. But I'm open to playing anything like that with people because it's just a fun way to play with people. On that note, I'm more of a hiker, like a hiking guy or going on long walks. With my job, I walk a ton every day, so it keeps me relatively in shape, I would say. But even then, like, I've always walked a lot. Like I used to walk at night. I used to work nights, and then on my nights off, I would walk in the middle of the night for like hours, just thinking or listening to music or something like that. So I've always liked walking a lot, and I like hiking. My wife and I do a lot of hiking. little less so recently because we got the kids and we've been busy, but we've always gone on big hikes or, you know, tackled some kind of tough trail or, you know, gone on vacation and gone to some really cool places to hike, particularly in the Southwest. So yeah, hiking is a big thing. Moving on to that, because I mentioned the Southwest, so like I'm a big fan of the Southwest and the desert in particular, and I love traveling. So like one thing we have always talked about is eventually snowbirding in when we get older and we retire or something, or you know, hopefully before then. I don't know, maybe we'll be able to afford it, but I've always wanted to, or like for a long time now, we've wanted to, you know, spend time in the American Southwest for big portions of the year, mostly during the winter. So we've traveled there a bunch. I've been to Arizona and Utah and like those areas. I really want to go to New Mexico. So these like traveling and stuff is a big theme. I've traveled. My wife's traveled way more than I have, but I really want to travel more. It's a little harder with kids, but we still want to do more traveling. Like there's tons of places I'd love to go. Never been to Japan. I'd love to go there. Love to go to Egypt. I'd love to go to South America. I'd love to go to Europe. I've never been to Europe. So there's lots of places I'd love to go. I'd love to go to like England and Germany because there's a lot of musical music history there that I'd really like to explore and just history in general that's really fascinating. And yeah, so like traveling is a big thing. And usually when we travel, I'm not really a city person. Like I like the city. I can appreciate going to like New York City and having a good time there. But I want to go home when I leave the city. I'd rather travel somewhere like the desert or somewhere up in the mountains or a beach or something where there's not a lot of people and it's scenery, it's places to hike. You know, that's probably the big theme for my wife and I when we travel. It's basically like going really nice places with epic views and like epic hiking and eating lots of really tasty food. That's my idea of a really fun vacation. Just sort of sightseeing and doing lots of hiking and adventuring, and then having a nice meal at the end of the day, and reading a nice book in the hotel afterwards. So at night. So yeah, that's basically my thing. But I love traveling. I do a lot of traveling just because of the nature of my relationship, being that, you know, I now live in Canada. My wife's from Canada, but my family lives in New Jersey. So we travel a lot in like the New York, New Jersey area. So I do a lot of driving and traveling that way. I used to love to drive. I don't love it anymore because I do probably too much of it. But I used to love getting in the car and just pulling out and seeing what happens, see where I end up. So yeah, I always loved traveling, and those are just kind of my favorite spots to go to, and a few little dream spots. Now we'll get to the nerdy part, which is just what I think you guys are or could probably most identify with. Now for me, you know, obviously everybody knows how much I love video games. I mean, video games were in some ways my first love. My first love as a kid was dinosaurs, and that still has not abated one bit. I still love dinosaurs. My girls love dinosaurs. I've always been fascinated by them. I've always you know, enjoyed reading about them or watching programs about them or watching stuff like Jurassic Park. You know, I'm a huge fan of dinosaurs, and you know, that also got me into like Godzilla. You know, I used to watch those movies as a kid, and I'm a massive Godzilla fan. So I love dinosaurs and dragons and monsters and stuff like that. So that kind of goes into the nerdy thing, which then, like, obviously it all kind of starts to connect, right? Then I'm really into science fiction, you know, like really into science fiction. And that's across the board. Movies, books, TV, games. I love science fiction. It's probably my favorite genre in terms of, you know, telling a story or playing a game or whatever. And same with like fantasy and horror. Those are my probably my big three is horror, fantasy, and science fiction. So like, I mean, that branches off into so many things, right? Like I said, books. I like books. Reading is another big love of mine. You know, especially in recent years. I wasn't a big reader as a kid. I was actually a late bloomer with reading. I didn't really start reading a lot until I was in my early 20s. I barely read. Like, I'd read stuff in school, obviously, but on my own, I barely read books. And And in now, I mean, I make it a goal to read 50 books every year. So and I also do an annual video. I've done a few book videos here on the channel, as some of you might know, but I do an annual video which will be coming up next month with my buddy Matt, and we always talk about all the books that we read over the last year. So right now I'm reading the very last Stormlight Archive book, which is from Brandon Sanderson's series, which is this really big epic. It's like fantasy sci-fi epic, and I'm just really loving it. So you can, like, a little plug, you could expect that video next month, our annual book video that Matt and I do, and we'll do a whole discussion about that. But yeah, books are a huge love of mine. I read a lot, like I said, of science fiction and fantasy and horror, especially. I've really gotten into horror books. And then with films, like, I love films. I love movies. I really, really enjoy watching movies. I've always been a big fan. I'm a big fan of, like, I don't know, Rachel always tells me how much how often I won't know, like, big A-list celebrities, but I always know this obscure actor, you know, just because, like, it'll be an actor that I saw in multiple movies and shows or something when I was a kid, and I went, oh, I like this actor, you know. So I've always been a fans of, like, that, you know, those kind of actors, I guess, sort of the people that are a little more under the radar, or directors or films. Like, I love B movies. I love B movies as much as I love, like, you know, an Academy Award nominated film, depending on the film, right? So, like, I love everything from like you know, B-list horror movies, stuff like trauma movies, to, you know, the most epic, you know, Lord of the Rings, Dune, that kind of thing, you know. I'm just a big fan of film in general, particularly science fiction, fantasy, and horror, but also I love comedies. I love a lot of the stuff that the critics don't like. And that's not me being Mr. Hipster going like, oh, what's popular sucks. I love plenty of things that are popular. But I don't know. I've always been more attracted to, like, a bigger scale epic story. You could do so much more in the realm of fantasy and science fiction than you could in, like, a normal, but when I say normal, something like a crime drama or like a romance or anything like that. I've always been more into the sort of, like, fantastic and whimsical and high fantasy epic, you know, thing, space opera, science fiction, Star Wars, right? I'm a massive Star Wars fan, particularly the original trilogy, obviously. The rest of it's pretty meh. I mean, I don't need to say that. I don't need to explain that to any other Star Wars fans. But right now we're watching Lord of the Rings, like the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, which has been like really fabulous. I'm actually going to read those books very soon. What else? Just, like, I love so many different films. Like I said, especially a lot of 80s horror and, like, a lot of 50. I should mention specifically, I really, really love retro science fiction. And when I say retro science fiction, I mean, like, 50s sci-fi movies. So, like, Forbidden Planet, Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, like that kind of thing. And then also, really, my wife, a big shout out to you, sweetie, like, she got me really into classic science fiction novels, because she was really into them. She's like, I know you would like, you know, classic science fiction. So I have also since discovered Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, Philip K. Dick, Ray Bradbury, Kurt Vonnegut. Like, you name all these classic science fiction authors, I love reading those books. There's so many amazing classic science fiction stories, and a lot of it, as you go into the history of, like, science fiction and fantasy, you realize how much that's really popular stuff, like Star Wars, for example, was influenced by these classic science fiction writers. So to me, that's, you know, I mean, that stuff's all amazing. It's timeless. I really love all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm a big I'm a huge fan of just, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of nerd culture stuff. You know, I love going to conventions. I've been to quite a few, like, anime and video game conventions, which I really like. I've done a few videos going to this convention in Syracuse, New York, called Retro Game Con, which I've gone to. You know, I've gone there 3 times, and I filmed 2 years of it, which are on the channel here somewhere. So I love going to conventions. I love going to concerts. That's another thing. Events. I'm a massive. So my number one thing probably that I would say, aside from video games, that I really really love and everything I've mentioned is music. Music is just has meant so much to me. Has been there for me more than practically any other thing, aside from obviously friends and family. But like, music is just something that I really really love and is a huge part of me, and I love a lot of different kinds of music. I'm a big rock and roll guy, if you couldn't tell. I love classic rock and metal and progressive rock especially, and everything. But I've my tastes have evolved over the years. I like everything from you know uh, recently I've been getting very into classical music because Rachel's really into classical music, so she's really helped me dive into that, and that's been fabulous. I'll listen to everything from like folk to hip hop, like especially early hip hop. Um, I love plenty of stuff like 80s pop or like, Michael Jackson, stuff like that. But then like, I mean, I'll listen to me, I feel like I'll listen to anything from Kiss to, I don't know, stuff like Jethro Tull or, Yes, some kind of like weird proggy stuff. And then I'm really into ambient stuff. So like I've been really into Dungeon Synth recently, and like I said, a lot of classical stuff, and like a lot of atmospheric music. My favorite band is Pink Floyd, and close second would be Rush. So like I like these bands with these, like I do. It all kind of mixes together for me because like these bands have sci-fi themes to some of their music, or fantasy themes, or whimsical might not be the right word. Well, it is in some context, but like, just this like cool like atmospheric sort of thing. I don't know. I like I like spacey type stuff. So I like a lot of space rock and that kind of thing, really jammy stuff. I love going to concerts. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. I recently went to a concert just by myself, just to enjoy it. So I could do it by myself or with friends. Some of my best memories are going to see like Rush with my friends. I saw them 3 times, or just going to concerts like that. So I love concerts, love live music. I play music a little bit. I play the bass a little bit. I'm not very good. I don't play a ton. I would not call myself a musician. I'm way more of a fan of music than I am a musician, but I can tinker around and get by with little things. So as you guys have seen, like we've done a few video game covers on the channel. My wife is the musician. She's a fantastic piano player, and I can fiddle around with the bass and guitar a little bit. I enjoy singing. I think I'm like okay at singing. I can get by with it, but it's just fun. It's just I don't know. My love of music just like sort of permeates everything. Even with video games, like you'll notice I'll always have video game music. Video game music was really my first love in terms of music, actually. And I think some of the video game composers like Nobuo Uematsu, Koji Kondo, who else am I thinking of? Mizuta, Yoko Shimomura. Like some of these composers are just amazing, the things that they do. And they are in many ways like the modern classical artists, as far as I'm concerned. I love video game music. It's a big portion. Like if you ever notice in my retro reviews, I always have a section in the video where I talk about the music in the game, because the music is so important. It sets the tone for the whole game, and it's just there's so many amazing music tracks in video games. So it's like, it's just again an extension of what I love. So yeah, I don't know. I love all that kind of stuff. I love, nerdy culture, all that stuff. Yeah, and I love rock and roll. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. All right, I'll stop. Anyway, is there anything else on my list here that I forgot? Oh yeah, I along with video games, I love board games. I didn't mention that. So I'm not a board game nut like a couple of my friends are, who I'm sure will watch this. Dave, one of them. But I love playing board games. It's really fun. It's a great social activity to do. And it's also like, whenever you want to, I try to sometimes like like I feel like I look at screens so often that a board game's nice because you're not looking at a screen. You're just sitting at a table with some friends, working out the rules of the game and trying to strategize and whatever. I've played tons of board games. We have a bunch of board games, and like I like everything from classic stuff like, you know, stupid stuff like checkers or Monopoly or whatever. I like that kind of thing, but even more recently, it's stuff like Catan or Carcassonne, or there's a game called Cosmic Encounter that I really, really love. There's lots of those like secret identity games I really, really love. Then you get the sort of more strategic games as well. Like, I mean, there's so many games I couldn't even begin to name everything that I've played, but I'm always down for a board game. Our friend Peter is like really good at explaining board games, and so like you know, I can sit down and like he'll explain it, and you know we'll play a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I love board games. It's one of my very favorite social activities to do. And if I were to pick anything, I love the secret identity games. I love, you know, having to lie straight at somebody and like try to make it so they can't figure out what you're actually trying to do. That stuff's really fun. I don't know. I like being a schemer in games. I don't know. So yeah, board games and oh yeah, I guess on the creative side, this will be the last. It won't be the last thing. Oh, I didn't mention with food. I'm a coffee nut. I have to have coffee every morning. I look forward to it every single morning. It's what kickstarts my day. It gets me through the day. I got 2 kids, man. I need coffee. But I was a coffee fiend way before. I used to smoke, so I used to smoke a cigarette and have coffee, and it was a thing. Don't smoke, kids. It's not good for you. I eventually quit, but I still retained my massive coffee addiction. So yeah, coffee is how I get through every day. Don't bother me until I've had my coffee. So yeah, coffee and yeah, so that's one. And then anyway, coffee also helps me with my creative endeavors like making videos. But aside from making videos, which you guys obviously know I love making videos, it's probably my passion project is this channel. But there's other things that are involved with it that I really like. So for a long time I actually wanted to be a writer. I used to try to write stuff, like write stories and things. I never really finished much with stories. I always got like ideas and then never followed through with it. I still would like to write some stories. There's all kinds of stuff that I've tried writing. I used to write a lot of fan fiction when I was younger. I actually have a fan fiction that I'll occasionally work on that I never really talk about, but maybe that'll be another video some other time. But I used to like writing that kind of stuff. But I've had lots of original ideas for books, particularly like science fiction stories and fantasy stories and stuff. And there's stuff I've even put down on paper, but in terms of like actually sitting down and really writing a novel, I've never really done that. I'd love to do that. I'd love to write some books, but my time already is spread thin. So maybe someday when I have more time, maybe it might take me till retirement. I'll write that novel, you know, or write a few novels. I don't know. But with writing, I still do it all the time because I do a lot of writing for the channel. So maybe someday I'll do like a behind the scenes video. Not anytime soon, but the first step of doing a video, whenever I do these big scripted videos, something like the upcoming Zelda video, or most of the lists I've done, or any of the brief history videos or retro reviews, I sit and write a script. So I have to write. I have a little bit of college background with writing, so I feel like and I always did really, really well in English. I think I'm actually somewhat decent at writing. I really enjoy it. So yeah, writing is like with reading. Writing, I think, goes hand in hand with it. I used to write poetry. I can write, you know, like you guys see, I write reviews and stuff like that. So writing is a really good way to express yourself and your thoughts. And sometimes I don't articulate myself well. I think that I'm way better on paper than I am off the cuff, like this video. So to me, in terms of videos, I'm just better when I have a script and it's written out and I could fully flesh out my thoughts and everything. So yeah, I love writing. It's a passion for sure, and it's something that I really hope to just continue to get better at. Other than that, guys, I mean, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. At least all my interests, anyway. I mean, aside from what I mentioned, like I said, I didn't really mention my friends and family, but that's probably my favorite thing to do is to hang out with them and spend time with them, spend time with my wife and my daughters, and you know, seeing friends and all that. So I tend to be a very introverted person, but the friends I do have, I hold very dear to me, and I really enjoy their company. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. That's or at least that's my interests in a nutshell. You know, I mean, you can't sum up an entire person with one video, but hopefully this gives you guys a better sort of idea of who I am, you know, or at least what my other interests are outside of gaming. So I feel like there's tons of tons of content I could do, and I've done in the past that isn't video game related, but I tend to stick to video games with my channel here because I think it's what I'm number one. It's what I'm good at, and I really have a good formula with it, and it's always fun talking about games. You know, it's a blast. I love video games. I always will. In many ways, they helped form the person I am today, which I talked about in my last video. But yeah. Anyway, those are a few of my favorite things. Feel free to put in the comment below what some of your interests are. Whatever, if you like any of the stuff that I had mentioned, feel free to put it in the comment below if you want to chat or whatever. And don't forget to join the Discord because we're awesome. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. And coming up, check out my New Year's update video that I do every year. I'll be doing that, and then hopefully once that's over, I've got for January basically 2 videos I'm going to be doing, which will be that book video that I had talked about, and of course I'm hoping to have the first part of Brief History of Zelda out in January. Until then, peace guys. Lots of love. Thanks for checking out my video.